Hey everybody, what's up? My name is DJ Step. I'm a record selector, turntablist, and the official DJ for the Chicago Fire, based here in the city of Wind. Anything else? Or do I do it? Cool.
You don't even need to mention the late night dive.
And I'm on Late Night Dive.
There we go.
Act like you know. It's late night and it's a dive. Yeah. We going swimming.
All right, well, this is episode 2 of the Late Night Dive. I'm your host, Jacob Polhill. I am here with DJ Step.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Air horn.
We can throw that in later.
Yeah,
we need to get like a little like clicker thing right here where I can do like sound effects and like fart.
Staples button.
Like you're like talking, I do like a whoopee cushion sound. It's like we need to bring that back. Dude, it's so good to have you here. I've been trying to do an interview with you for like 6 months now.
Well, the whole pandemic thing happened, so it's. I mean, obviously, we're not totally out of it yet, but it's.
You and I are both fully vaccinated,
yes.
So like we can technically like hold hands on camera.
I mean, it's just like
we can do like according to the CDC, we can do this.
Like a post production in Celine Dion. My heart will go on.
Yeah, we like breathe on each other.
Yeah. Well, let's wait till later for that.
A couple more of these Topo Chico hard seltzers. After we are not sponsored by them, apparently all the other cool kids in Chicago are though. So maybe one day.
Aspirational sponsor.
Oh, this is really good. Yeah. I'm not even lying.
Good. I mean, like I said, you have to. This is like your opening week of your podcast. It's not like a housewarming, but I wanted to do a podcast warming and not come in empty-handed.
Dude, yeah, you're a good guy for that, man.
Hospitality.
Pleasure to have you here. You're a good guest already.
Thank you.
You're coming in here. Your vibe is you're this energetic.
Yes. It's a Sunday, so
you're just looking at everything in the room besides me or the camera.
Well, I don't know if I was supposed to look directly.
It's okay. No, I'm still trying to get used to it.
Yeah.
Like it's a totally different vibe as opposed to when we were doing 40s and literally we didn't have a camera. I didn't have to worry about how I looked the entire time.
Sure.
Yeah, like I actually have to like put on nice clothes. I can't just like drink in my sweatpants anymore and just act like a fucking idiot.
Well, I mean, people evolve. That's growth. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, how have you grown in the past year because of the pandemic?
Oh,
see how I did that? That was a good one.
Wow, what a segue. Yeah, I mean, I have facial hair now, so that's a big improvement for me. Coming into the ripe old age of 30. I want to get that out of the way.
30!
Yeah.
Woo! Give it up.
But you're closer to death. Yep. We're good.
I heard 30s are just your 20s with more money and more fun.
Yeah, I think Jay-Z said that actually in 30 is the new 20.
I don't know. He's like 50 now though.
No, but he said it a long time ago. I'm dating myself.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, man, I would say, I was talking a little bit beforehand, and I would say the last year, I think for everybody was sort of a level set, wiping the slate clean. I mean, obviously it would be dismissive to say that like obviously people have lost a lot more than just simply work or time or any number of things. Human beings have left as a result of the last year and kind of all the things that have happened. So while I'm lucky enough where I haven't been directly impacted, I think as a person, it's been a nice way to level set and kind of understand and distill what's really important. I kind of had an idea of what that is prior to all this.
Yeah.
But definitely more so now to be more focused and just kind of see through all the bullshit.
Yeah, and that's something just from conversations I've had with you prior to this whatever. Was you are somebody who doesn't like the fucking bullshit. You don't like the facades. Like you just want to fucking do a good job and like do the work. Like how is it? But I also feel like the culture of like DJing, especially in the city, like there is a lot of like politics and everything that go along with it. How do you kind of like navigate that and like stay true to yourself and like not feed into like the bullshit?
I mean, I think DJing is you know, it's a blessing to be able to do it regularly, and obviously the last year, and with the exception of playing on Twitch, like it's even more so, or live streaming. Something I don't take lightly, and I'm lucky to do. Prior to the pandemic, navigating that type of thing, it really was just a matter of trying to align yourself with the right people. But Chicago is a very dicey, pothole-ridden. I mean, obviously in the literal sense, but also in the sense of like relationships, and you actually have to decide where you want to navigate as it relates to DJing and music, right? Like, you could go somewhere out of Chicago and be someone that's a DJ or know a DJ, and then go to another city, and you would completely be like two ships that just sort of passed in the night, because there's so many different scenes, within the city. There's your loft party DJs, there's your like cool, eccentric, like sneakerhead DJs, there's your like club scene DJs, there's your like minimal house music DJs, there's your like soulful old school, like there's so many different, there's your scratch heavy folks that are like still in the lab, like making beats from the 90s, like, and so there's so many different types of avenues, and I think it's just a matter of being comfortable where you are, and then really trying to focus in on what you want out of it all,
If I had an air horn, I would just like bang the shit out right now, because that was such a good answer to that question.
I mean, it's hard, man. Yeah. Like, I think as someone who's been DJing for now, it's been over a decade. I don't
Holy shit.
Yeah, but that's not even that much in comparison to peers and people that have been involved in music. So 10 years is a lot, and it's a third of my life, right? If we were, let's see, 1, 2, 30, carry the one. No, I'm kidding. It's a third of my life, right? But it's not about necessarily the years. It's about what you're learning in those times, and giving yourself the opportunity to make those mistakes and progress, right? You're talking about growth beforehand.
Yeah, dude, definitely. Shit, you hit so many good points right there. Oh yeah, you talked about like all the different styles of DJing that there are. Mm-hmm. Where do you put yourself? Like, how do you describe a DJ set?
Yeah, that's tough, because I think when in the arc of an artist, right? Whether you're painting, whether you're a vocalist, whether you're an MC, a DJ, whatever. I think for the first couple of years, you're trying to understand how you can get technically good at what you're doing, right? Like, can the needle not skip? Am I using a proper, vantage point for...
At least that's what you should be doing.
Right. Yeah. It's different, nowadays, right, with social media and everything. But, like, am I, garnering enough technical ability? Am I understanding colors and my medium and what I'm doing ultimately at the end of the day?
Preach.
Once you get to a point where you're functional, it's about saying, these are the things I like about that artist or that mentor or something.
Yeah.
And then how do I take this and make it my own? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I would say I was taught by people that were more in the scene of hip hop, from a functionality of quick mixing through records, through dropping records on the one, which means like dropping it on the downbeat, and not kind of like long flowing house mixes where there's like 30 to 40 seconds between transition.
Oh yeah.
So quick mixing, I call it active. So it means that like I'm always trying to fix something, or fine tune something, or introduce a new idea or sentence or thought into a mix, and then I'm always thinking. Which is not a good thing when you're an over-analytical person, because you're like sitting at the crowd and you're like, God, why is that girl to the left not dancing? Like, why is, dang it, she's talking on the phone. She's probably talking about how bad this set is right now. God, like, so you get in your you get in your head about things. But active, technically technically good, technically sound.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not the most like technically skilled DJ in the entire the city or country. That's obvious, but
Right.
I think I'm steps ahead or miles ahead of a lot of people in my bracket or age group or
Ooh, talk
skill
your
set
shit.
or whatever. So that's not really negotiable. I know that already, but it's one of those things where technically active and then just multi-genre. Like people ask me what music I play, I say I play dance music, and it doesn't mean house. It doesn't
Very nice.
mean electronic. It doesn't mean hip hop. It doesn't mean reggae. It doesn't mean Latin. It doesn't mean rare groove. It doesn't mean it's all those things. It's like drop me anywhere without a map, and I will find my way and figure it out. So, I mean,
Damn.
it's
Without a map, find your.
yeah. I mean, I don't.
You have a poetry background.
No,
Very eloquent.
No, I mean, I didn't have any poetry background. I actually hate poetry. I got to be honest.
Really?
I'm being real with you.
You speak very eloquently.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't like words and it's just like I think there's a culture around like the the hot sweaty club and everyone going like, yes, preach, like, oh, like, and then someone banging on drums and stuff and like talking about like poetry is the essence of like hip hop and all the things that I really like, but like poetry by itself, it gets a little too in the weeds for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you also just touched on that. Your place, like like where you are in perspective to like everyone else. You were on NPR's list of top DJs to watch out for, like. Was it like going into the future? Like, what was the tagline?
Oh, yeah. So that was in 2019, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
And that was just to watch. I think it was more like a heat check for if you're in the city of Chicago and you're like looking to go out and do something. Who are people that you should have your radar for? If you want to have a good time, basically.
Yeah.
And you could redo that list.
Oh, every
like a
year.
30 time, but you could do that like, in every single scene, excuse me, that I was just talking about, right? But, obviously NPR is kind of like a, with their Tiny Desk series and all the taste making they've done, they've kind of positioned themselves as someone that's at the cross section of a bunch of different musical sensibilities.
Right.
And it's kind of cool to see something that's in a national, federally funded stuff doesn't always have the greatest connotation in the art scene. Whereas like if you went over to Europe, like some of the best things are funded by the government because there's just a different relationship between the arts. So it's cool to see NPR as not like a fledgling, but doing cool stuff like that and actually curating and understanding what makes, booties move in each and every city, basically.
Would you call yourself a booty mover?
I mean, yeah.
You play for the clappers?
Yeah, if the if the mood so strikes, get them up, get the noise going.
You're going to Twisted.
Let your mind.
You're one of the people making
wander.
Twisted feel like Miami on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, depends.
Depends.
Depends how many Topo Chico seltzers I've had.
Oh, there we go. Hey,
Yeah.
Topo, hit us up.
Yeah.
A good ad placement right here.
So
man.
yeah, I mean, I don't think I have. To go back to your question, I think it's always a learning curve.
Yeah.
For any artist, DJ, whatever. What I try and do is I try and like look out at the field of people that are also doing something similar to me and say, is this person similar to me? Are they like me?
Yeah.
Do they have mannerisms, or do they have even their appearance looks similar to me? Because, listen, I'm a white, fair-skinned blonde dude. Like, there's quite a chance that there's more people that look like me that DJ, or the majority, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, there's no one that's like me in terms of what I do, and then the niches and things that I've kind of weaved myself into. So it's a matter of just trying to say like, not necessarily competition, but figuring out differentiators from different people and being like, where do you nestle in and how can you provide something different, basically.
And I feel like DJing, like there's a formula that people can follow to be like successful from like a monetary aspect of it. Do you agree with that? Like just based off of like, you can go into a club, you can play the club hits, like
Right.
you can have bare minimal skills and like you can get by. but like it doesn't necessarily make you a good DJ, but like you can like make money on it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, like money is readily well, maybe after this year not as much, but money is normally readily available in the entertainment industry like that. And you can go to websites and just say, hey, it's called like a record pool, right? Back in the day, they had actual physical records they'd pass out from the labels that were hot or is going to be the newest, latest, greatest thing. Obviously, everything's digitized. You can go in on charts and say, hey, these 10 records are the hottest shit right now, for lack of a better term, right? And then hit download, and then, within any manageable expectation, hold down an hour somewhere, and that's another thing. Sets as DJs have shrunk significantly, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, if we're talking about like nightclubs or places that like where there's a lot of money at stake, right? Normally venues and places try to attract people to come in and bring people out of town, right? So those people are flying in from God knows where, and normally they want to have them playing during the time when people are the most intoxicated, when there's the most people in the room, and then there's more opportunity for people to spend large amounts of money, right? So it's a science. It's an equation, basically. So why would I tire this person out with, Susie and Becky asking for the, top Cardi B record at, 9 p.m. When I could have them ready and primed to come in after having a nice dinner at midnight to crush it, make the most money for the people that,
No, but keep breaking down the business aspect of it. I think that's important.
But I mean, again, this is obviously a club background perspective, right? Like you could go to, a more open format place, and it would be entirely a different experience. And there's no bottle service involved or anything like that. And I feel like that's kind of dying anyways in the city. But but the idea of most people in the room, highest return on investment, best person playing, or most sought after person playing is, I think that makes sense, right? You're not going to take Michael Jordan out in the third quarter when you need him the most, right? You're not going to put, Horace Grant at point guard. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like, so you're putting the person that does what they do in those positions, right? Mm-hmm. So, it depends. Like I said, all those scenes I listed, each one of those scenes have, I think, a slightly different version of what I just said. But that being mentioned, there's definitely an equation and like a mindset to it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was a really good way of breaking it down. I think but you've been doing this shit for 10 years.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you though, so like what's the difference, because you are the official DJ of the Chicago Fire. We haven't said that yet.
Yeah.
What is the difference between your like preparation for like DJing for the Fire and like a stadium which at some point can fill 70,000 people?
Yeah.
At Soldier Field.
Right.
Versus DJing, like let's say I'm gonna throw out Ace Hotel.
Yeah.
And doing what, like 200, 300 people max?
Right. Yeah. It's progressed over time, and it's even different, like from last year to this year. Yeah. Last year was their first time returning to Soldier Field. Obviously, with the pandemic, it wasn't as scheduled, and it wasn't with people in the stands. And really, I had more of an opportunity to play specifically for the team, so for the players, and be their kind of warm-up soundtrack, the same way that like when we were kids and we'd pop in headphones when we were about to go play a game or something like that.
They would put on "Bring 'Em Out" by T.I. at the basketball games at every middle school.
Swagger like us, like
yes,
yeah. So I'm basically that for them, and I think when you introduce fans, there's more ears, obviously, on what
you're gonna play the YMCA,
right? So, not exactly, but in the idea of making things more greatest common denominator and more palatable, that does come into play, right? There's Chicago quote unquote classics that no matter what, I'm probably going to touch on at some point within the stadium. And for some people, I think there's the idea of like, oh, it's tired. Like we want you to, when I come to the experience, I want to hear something different every single day, right? there's definitely people that I switch things up, and it's not like I have a set blend from this song to this song that I do every single time. But that said, there are ideas and things that I'm doing at the stadium that's different from playing at a nightclub or bar.
Right.
You know, I almost think of each stadium experience almost like sort of like almost like a clothing rollout or something. Like it's like a capsule collection. Like we're doing Chicago centric things that whole day, and for the 2-3 hours that I'm involved, and I'm trying to weave however many subtle thoughts and ideas about the city into that stadium experience while still keeping the energy high and still checking the boxes for the team. In terms of what they want to hear. I mean, 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I started, the makeup of the team, charts what you do, right? We had maybe one Latino player on the team when I started in 2015. Now the team's 3/4 representation of South America, Central America, and that's dope for me because I'm someone that like loves Latin American music. I love reggaeton. Like I started when I'm back east, where I'm from. I started like learning and speaking Spanish as young as kindergarten because of the school district program I'm in. So while I'm not, obviously my last name is Stepnowski. I'm obviously not Latino. The sensibilities of that type of music were something that are big in my life, and I just felt like I could never put it into the game day experience, even with how global a game soccer is. So these last like year and a half with this introduction and almost shift in the makeup of the team, I think it's more representative of the city at large, right? Chicago is a super diverse city. It's oftentimes a super segregated city, but it's a very diverse city. And to be able to, weave that into a game day experience is really great.
I think what you just touched on was super important. And that's like you as a DJ realizing like your role and like taking into account like this is the makeup of the team, like this is how I'm gonna play, and then as it's changing, you're like I like need to do something different, like to represent like the people that are like either going to be in the stadium,
right,
playing for the team, representing the team, whatever, right. But then also like representing Chicago. Like I think that's what makes you a good DJ, because I feel like a lot of DJs might not even think about like those little things.
There's so many levels to it, man. There's like, obviously
I wouldn't have thought about that.
There's a couple like Latino players where I'm like scooping, like they're on summer in Colombia and they're from Colombia. I'm like, oh shit, like that means Balvin on deck. Like these guys are gonna love that type of shit. And then it's like I'm getting DMs from some of the managers on the first team, like, yo, we rap practice, and they were loving this record. Can you put it on? I'm like, oh, shit, like I don't have a clean version of that, but right before the game, let me edit it real quick and make it clean. So
do you edit the clean versions then?
I mean, there's pools where you can get versions of it,
right.
But in a lot of cases, like some of the stuff is super duper obscure, or it comes out so new that I need to make adjustments oftentimes even hours before games, right? And then I've got like, young like black players on the team that like I want to be like, this is Chicago, like it's a hip hop city, like they need a spot sonically at the table and they need to be represented. Like soccer for a long time, and I'm part of that, like has been a very pay to play white thing in the United States, and it's created a lot of issues about accountability and just how we progress as a nation with the sport. And so I've made it a point, if I do events and it has that lens on it, if it comes from that, there needs to be more people that don't look like me there. There needs to be a representation. And I've started doing more series of events where it's, if we can bring in people that it's their first time seeing something, they've only played FIFA, they don't have a reference or frame point, they like the way Pogba danced in like a Pepsi commercial or something like that. Those are the people where I want to bring them along, because the scene for these games is unlike going to the UC or going to Wrigley or Sal.
I think that the whole like idea of like the Fire finally being back in Soldier Field, like the fact that Soldier Field is gonna be used in the summertime for something
Right.
is incredible for the city, I think. And then also like it being in the city and not all the way out in like what was it, like Tinley Park, like where Toyota Park
It was
was?
it's in Bridgeview. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong, like the Red Stars are going to play out there now. They also have like a minor league team called, actually it's called Chicago House, that's going to play out there as well.
That's
And
a minor league team for the Fire?
No,
Or-
so the way it works out, it's in a separate league.
Okay.
The minor league team for the Fire is actually up in Wisconsin. They're called Forward Madison.
Okay.
And they're an affiliate of the Fire, so they have like a relationship in terms of players back and forth. And they're also like, if you're ever up in Wisconsin, they have such a dope community. And like the Flock, they're called up there, the Forward Flock. They're just really, really cool and have a whole different vibe up there too. So Midwest has a lot of cool stuff for the sport. And just like such a underrepresented, base in the public eye. So it's good to do.
Oh yeah, dude. Soccer is huge. Like even from like where I'm from in like Rockford.
Yep.
I was just talking with these guys before you got here, and travel soccer is like huge for like kids like out there, especially the ones that have like access and like you have like facilities that are like close enough to you
Sure.
where like all this is like happening and
Yep.
stuff. So did you grow up playing soccer then?
Yeah, definitely. I'm the youngest of three, so I was
Okay.
always the guy sitting on the sidelines. Oh,
No, you're
excuse
good.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering too.
I was always the guy sitting on the sidelines, like eating all the orange slices at halftime and everything, because I'm 6 years younger than my brother, and then I'm 9 years younger than my sister. So
Oh, nice.
there's like a big age gap, and so I started playing, before it probably was even, obviously like legal. You want to say? I don't know. Like there wasn't any offered things for my age group, right? So I've played all my life, obviously at varying levels, degrees of success. I'm pretty washed up now. But
You don't play very much anymore?
I mean, with the pandemic, I haven't really been able to I just
Yeah.
I just envisioned like horror stories of getting coronavirus from just already being winded as is at like a soccer game. So
Yeah.
now that I'm like vaccinated and on the road to being in a better place, I think I've played for the Globe Pub, which is like a really, really prominent soccer pub up in Irving Park. I played for their men's team for a number of years, and then I played on DePaul's club team when I was out there. So when I got to college, I wanted to play soccer, but we're a D1 school, and
That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not good enough by any means with the best imagination, and then B, I was like, I want to have like a college life. I don't want to be like shipping myself off to God knows where, like Creighton or something like that, to go play like a weekend game. No disrespect to Creighton, but like I want to be in.
No, all disrespect to Creighton.
Fuck
Doug McDermott.
I
Worst pick ever.
I drove or flew all the way here to Chicago from where I was, and I just couldn't see myself, even if by some Hail Mary ended up being on the team. So I'd rather just kind of play it by ear, and played with a bunch of older upperclassmen when I first got on, and they kind of showed me the ropes of the city and the school, which was cool.
Yeah, dude. So you're from the East Coast.
Yep, Connecticut.
What brought you to DePaul? Because that's what brought you to Chicago, actually,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, music basically. Like I, again, dating myself, right? Like, was definitely in my music discovery process was definitely in the Napster and LimeWire and ScanDisc on like a Zune download burner. I'm just like saying words at this point. Everyone, you know what I'm talking about.
Anybody under the age of like 20,
I'm speaking gibberish
right now is just like what the Zoom.
It's like did he just
like they might have heard of Napster and LimeWire.
Yeah. Pirate Bay, you know what I'm saying? Oh, it's crazy. Shouts Pirate Bay.
MySpace.
Yeah.
Shout out MySpace.
Listen, don't throw shade at MySpace.
No one's throwing shade. Everyone here loves MySpace, especially Nico over there. He's the MySpace king.
Yeah. Shouts to Tom, your first friend.
Ever.
But yeah, when I was learning about music, and I was obviously getting filtered music from my siblings, a big person for me at the time was Kanye West and like College Dropout when that album dropped. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and I went to like a charter school. So it was like a magnet school that you kind of like lotteried and got lucky and got into, but it meant that I had these long ass bus rides between getting home like an hour bus ride
Holy
or 45
fuck.
minutes every single day to get home.
Hell no.
So I had like, the CD Walkman in the back and burned CDs and stuff. And so growing up, like being someone that was curious, like, all right, this album has Talib Kweli on it. This album has Common on it. This has GLC. This has, hey, who's this person that's on the skit from this point to this point? Who did, can I find the liner notes or the production notes? And started learning more about Chicago music as it was kind of like crystallized in that time. And so I always was really, really into Chicago hip hop. And when it came up, I was looking at cities that were either musically oriented, like Loyola, and there's one in New Orleans. And then I actually got recruited for a couple of schools for soccer that were like D2, but I just couldn't see myself going to like, the sticks in upper state New York or Massachusetts to play and just like, be cow tipping or whatever it was. So, so I decided to, like, when I came out here, I was like, man, this city's awesome. Everyone seemed really nice at the time, which now I know it's actually not really the case.
Well, you're from the East Coast. I heard everyone's dicks out there.
Yeah, but I would argue, and listen, I'll etch the line out on this wooden floor that, and you can try and cross it. I dare you. Is that Chicago people or Midwesterners are just as mean as East Coast people, but they just don't show it the same way East Coast folks do.
Yeah.
Because I think East Coast, like, the waspy, Doc Cider polo, like, snootiness of like New England is a vibe, right? And then New York City, where people will, tell you to go F yourself, but at least they're being upfront with you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
At the end of the day, where like Chicagoans are like, they'll,
passive aggressive as fuck.
Yeah, microaggressions. They'll go over your head on something. They'll not include you on something. They'll only include you when you're bringing something to the table or you have a connection they need. They'll only hit you up if they need something from you, like things like that.
Damn, throw it out there. No, that's fine.
I mean, but that's what it is. I mean,
yeah, no,
I think those traits aren't unique to Chicago. Everyone does that, but like I'm just saying that I think if you were to like drop things on like a scale, that they would eventually even themselves out in terms of negative behavior.
Fair enough. But so yeah, you came out to Chicago, go to DePaul.
Yep.
You were studying what?
So at the time, I had no idea when I first came out here. Like I said, I spoke Spanish, so I had a bunch of prereq courses out of the way that I tested out of and had college credit for in high school. So I ended up majoring in communications and then Spanish. So I double majored, which has nothing to do with music whatsoever. But I like to think that like set wise and music and what's even more important than necessarily the music sometimes is how you communicate yourself as a human being and someone that's like worth cheering for, right? Like if you're an artist and you're someone that like, oh, I'm the greatest and I did this and that and the other thing and X brand's working with me, Y brand's doing this, like that's great. Like everyone can tell you that you're killing it or whatever.
Right.
But the more valuable thing, and I think the thing that is more universal and will get more respect and stand the test of time is like, are you someone that's honest with people? And are you someone that is worth cheering for, right? If people aren't going to celebrate something that you've achieved because they weren't there when you weren't achieving those things, like it just didn't go, I found a record and then all of a sudden I'm playing in a stadium for 40, 50,000 people. Like it doesn't it's just not like a straight line. There's a lot
Talk about that meandering line then. Like,
oh, excuse me.
So you got to DePaul and that's when you discovered, is that when you discovered DJing?
I had seen DJs before. Well,
Right.
I don't know if it was really DJing, but it was like record selecting at like school dances and stuff, growing up.
Yeah. It's like the weird, like older, like middle-aged white dude that's like playing.
Yeah, it's like your friend's dad that has extra time and like has the cheapest equipment. They threw him the alley-oop for the
Probably not even have a mixer.
Right, the junior prom, after hours events, so no one would
playing on 2 iPods.
Right, like it's the one with the little like crossfade.
Yeah.
But there was like
one.
mashups. They were called mashups at the time, right? Blends or whatever of records, and I'm like, how is this white dude getting down like that? How did he put Beastie Boys on top of that Run DMC instrument? Like, I'm like, how is this guy doing? This guy's lighting this place up right now. Well, it turns out, all right, he got it from like.
He downloaded it from
Yeah, it was someone else did the hard work, right? I thought he was doing the shit on the fly, and honestly that still is to this day. People are like, "Bro, you are crushing it. How did you like?" And honestly, I do blends live in sets. Like I am mixing a vocal from something on top of something, and people don't really care, obviously, because if you're doing it right, it doesn't sound like they don't.
Right.
Like harmonically, they're in key. You're like thinking about the key that both of those songs are written in, the tempo, all that other stuff.
Getting the fucking theory and shit now.
But now, obviously, there's so many different, in technology, internet, Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools. You can just splice that stuff right before you get on, and then have that happen and do the work for you. So, but to your point, I saw him do that. I got interested in it in school. I had my brother's fake ID at the time. Well, it was his real ID.
Shout your brother out.
Yeah, Justin, thank you. Appreciate you. Love.
I wish I had an older brother give me a fake ID.
Well, actually, it wasn't fake. It was his real ID, technically. We just look a lot alike. So I think the statute of limitations have warranted that I can't get in trouble for that now. It's been over 10 years. But if CPD comes busting through the...
my fake ID was I was a 5'8" Mexican dude named Luis Martinez.
Well,
from Kirkland, Illinois. And...
Did it work ever?
Dude, no, somebody got his ID somehow. It was a drunken night on New Year's Eve, whatever. Mm-hmm. Somebody got his ID, and
so it was real technically.
It was a real ID, which is probably worse that I was using it, honestly.
No,
but what the craziest thing was,
technically.
Yeah, technically, in Chicago, nobody gave a fuck. Like nobody gave an act.
I had one taken by a door guy one time.
Yeah.
And then I went and got that shit back actually because
he didn't give a fuck.
Because I was just like, no, this train is not leaving the station tonight. Like this is not how it ends. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Chicago bouncers don't give a fuck. Yeah. They really don't.
I mean, in retrospect, like when I started DJing, I was too young to be in the clubs I was DJing at.
Oh, there we go. That's what we like to hear right there.
And so when like I definitely had faded friends, like thinking it was a good idea to like show up at places I was at, and I would be like hand at the throat, like
they're also underage,
right? Yeah, I don't know these people, like blah 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 blah, and then like I would go back and I would it's Brian, the security guy. I'm cool with him. Brian ended up being like 10 years of working together and would always have my back. But like we would go to the drawer, and then the drawer is literally like name a state. You know what I'm saying? And or like a territory. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Name a place, and like. You know how back in the day when they had those Jewel, this is again dating myself, not Jewel the grocery store, but Jewel the CD cases where you would open up and they would have like all the different CDs, or whether it be like for video games or whatever. And so it's your little carrying case. You could legitimately do that with IDs, basically.
They just had a drawer full
of
people
are idiots. Like just I don't know. It's just people being idiots. So needless to say, I started playing, I started like going out because of my brother and found a DJ crew. They were called CrossFitter King, which in like the heat of the early 2010s, like Bloghouse, like Diplo, like Girl Talk, like DJing. Being a DJ like was legitimately a rock star.
Nico's
right? Like,
grinning ear to ear right now.
Right, because that was like a crystallizing moment. Like there's a particular fashion. All you young, people have no idea what is going on. But just Google that shit. And so at the time they were really really prominent in the scene, and I would just show up at all of their. At all their gigs, and I would just be a fly on the wall, like, and I would tell myself from a discipline perspective, like, I'm going to have 2 drinks tonight. I'm not going to spend any more money than that, and I'm going to talk to 5 people that I've seen, whether it be like they were in recap videos because they're a photographer that's in the scene a bunch, they're a DJ, they're an MC, and I'm gonna learn from them.
Did
Yeah.
you hold yourself to the 2 drinks a night?
I mean, obviously there'd be nights where I'd color outside the lines a little bit, depending on how, right? But that was, but
Fuck
like,
the lines, though,
but those
right?
are the things where it's like I don't think people have that discipline anymore, of like, and even now, like to go out somewhere and say, I'm gonna make an impact at this place. I'm gonna put myself out there and I'm gonna learn from this scene, because
Yeah.
everyone nowadays is like, well, who's there? Is it busy? Is it not busy? What's the vibe like? And so and then they'll just like
Yeah.
end up not going there, or they'll all just go to the place that's completely overcrowded. Nothing productive's getting done.
You're
and it's-
standing with the 3 people
Right.
that you got there with.
and you're like nestled up against each other, like you're on the red line at like 4 p.m. going back from just like everyone smells. It sucks, and it's like because
I love
so and so did a collab Hennessy bottle or like Stoli bottle with X brand, and that's we're all gonna show up, and that's the thing that like that's the art that that we're doing. And that listen, that's nothing new. Like all these things are progressions. Like even that 2010 era, like Scion. Do you remember Scion, the car company? Right.
Are they not a thing anymore?
They still are.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying like back then they hedged their bets in the DJ game, and they were throwing boatloads of money into the event space at the time to be like the cool edgy car. That if you're someone
That DJs wanted to buy.
I mean, listen, a lot of DJs bought those cars, but also just being someone that was in that scene at the time, right? Like being like, I identify with this. I've seen Science thrown some dope events. It's the same way Red Bull positions itself. They're an energy drink, but they put themselves next to a lot of shit that has nothing to do with energy drinks ultimately at the end of the day. Right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to mind, you're not just thinking of an energy drink. You're thinking of a company that threw a guy out of a spaceship above the planet and hosts ice luging and does, well, not anymore, but the Red Bull Music Academy back in the day, like rest in peace, all that other stuff. So it's not just
I was just making sure that they could, see that
of
we're
course. I was talking about brands throwing money behind things, right?
Just like
So I mean those things are just as important as they are now, but I think history finds a way to repeat itself if we don't learn from those things. And I wish more people really did take the time to come out and actually legitimately support things. And I listen, I'm hopefully one of the things that comes out of this pandemic is that people don't take those things for granted anymore, right? Like people don't take the idea that like there were times when I would go, and friends are in the same way, that like I know 3 people have events tonight and I'm off, so I'm going to try and support each one of those things for, 45 minutes, right? And there are still people that do that, but there are definitely a way larger number of people that either never make it out of the house, which respect to you if you're not vaccinated or you don't feel like you're there yet or you're still anxious about being around people. Like, listen, it ain't going anywhere. You can come out whenever you want to, right? But the folks that are supporting things and need the time to actually, like, your support is free, Like, your like is free, your comment is free. Even if the shit sucks, don't say it. You don't have to tell them it sucks, but maybe you don't support that one. You don't like that one thing that one time, and then you wait until they figure their shit out.
I think that's something important that you just touched on is like everyone wants to just like love everything. And like we got to get back to a point where like there can be like some sort of like constructive criticism without it being like, oh, you're a fucking hater,
right? Well,
like you just don't like get it. And
I mean, this year has been like during the pandemic, and like I think a lot of I say racial injustice, but it's not like racial injustice is new, but the heightened focus on racial injustice, I guess, of the summer, and folks, being in a situation where there's more focus on those really important values other than the side of just like a party or an event or something like that. You need to be smarter about
who you're working with
or who you're supporting, right? Like you mentioned Ace beforehand, right? Because I used to play there, right?
Yeah.
And then right before we went inside for a year, like there was a lot of talk about how they treated their allegedly, right? They're
Yeah.
non-white employees, and across the board. Like I've played at their New Orleans venue. I've played at the Chicago one too, and I'm not gonna. And I've done events there too, and I'm not gonna do it anymore, right? Like so, that's another thing, and not to be super tangential here, but like how many places are gonna be left after all this? Like
Right.
to actually do events, to actually throw things.
Well, that's what I was starting to wonder is like how many places are gonna open after this is done because of like the influx. Like, is there gonna be like a bull rush to like, okay, like everyone wants to have events now? Like we've been locked away. Like I think that there's gonna be a weird like the first couple of months of when shit's really open is gonna be weird.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be like prohibition level debauchery for sure.
I don't think it's gonna last long though.
But it already is
Yeah.
at that point right now
Yeah.
though. Like in this neighborhood where we are,
Yeah.
and then in the neighboring neighborhoods, like I know there's places I can go where I walk in and the sign says mask required at the door, but when I walk in and look around, no, that's not happening.
I saw 10 people at 8:00 the other night waiting outside the green room.
That place. Listen, low key fire.
No,
Like,
no, yeah.
Put some respect to the green.
No,
room's name.
but I'm not. But also at the same time, I'm not waiting in line at a dive bar.
No, yeah, but I think it's like, but think about it though, like that's
Yeah.
like that a step.
But-
Like I don't know how you get down, but there's different people where like the dive bar is the only place they will go.
I
Like,
love the dive bar.
I like if I can't. What's that thing called? Touch tones with you can like phone in the song on it.
You fuck with the touchstones?
Hell yeah, man! If I'm off on a night, I am ruining everyone's night
You're
for touch tones.
Really?
Hell,
What are you putting on the touchstones in the room?
I mean, I'm not
night?
ruining anyone's night, but I'm
Oh.
making people listening to what I want to listen to.
Oh,
and they can-
you're running up the tab. Your touchstone tab is more than your bar tab. It becomes a
Eventually.
DJ step set.
yeah.
You spent $10 on
I
the
cap myself, but I also go to like, for instance, places that don't want to hear my sense of music, and I just force it on them as well.
Nick, you definitely look like you ran up the touchstones at U of I on some stupid shit.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, it to each their own, right? Like, but no, I would agree with you. I think people are just like searching for some type of familiarity.
Yeah.
And searching for some type of return to feeling like a human again, basically.
So when does the return of DJ Step to the club scene, bar scene, whatever scene that you want to put yourself in? When does that start coming now that you're fully vaccinated? And what does that kind of look like for you? Like, let's just say like right now, like
Yeah.
you got offered to do a gig, like you're going to do it. Like what kind of music do you play knowing that people got to be vaxxed up and like still kind of be responsible? Like as a curator.
No, I mean, I don't think about the people's. I mean, I don't think about people's vaccination status going into like they're. I'm more concerned about myself, and I'm more concerned about the staff. Ultimately, those are the only two people I care about. The rest of the people, they've made
They're
the
patrons.
intention
Yeah.
to go there, and they've made the choice. Right. At least I've hoped they've made a choice. Being forced to go somewhere is not great.
Yeah.
To me, it's a time now where it's time to be even more intentional than beforehand about where I'm playing and why I'm playing there. There's people that say like they'll lie to you that they say that from a DJ perspective or event perspective, like every time I'm out, it's an experience. Like, come on, man. Like that's not. I mean, experience for who? I don't know, but like it just there's people that are out in the streets, right? Quote unquote out in the streets and playing a bunch of different sets, but like those people aren't happy. Like the people that are playing 5-6 nights a week, they're tired, bro. They're not like it's not.
Yeah.
And I say that because I've done it before, right? And for me, it's going to be intention around where are places that I can go and play that are safe from a distancing perspective, that I feel comfortable being in, that are layups for me in terms of curating the type of music that I want to get back into, that I've been playing on streams and doing stuff, during quarantine in the early half of it. And then am I aligning myself with people that I want to be with in terms of events and sponsorships and stuff? And just flat out, does it make money?
Yeah.
That's like, I don't think people have an honest conversation about, like, people want to do cool shit, right? And it's fine to do cool shit in an early phase, or it's fine to do cool shit in all across your career. But are you actually financially being compensated for the amount of time, the skill set you have, the network that you've created,
Speak on it. Speak on it.
all the time and effort that you've put into the promotion, the talking to people about being there, designing drink menus with the staff there, so you're like doing their job for them
Paying
too
for the
now.
flyers, paying for the photographer most
Paying
of the
for the
time.
designers, paying for the
The
flyers,
videographer that you
the
got to pay for because
photographer.
they're not, the venue's not paying for it, so
Right.
you can make
All
the
of it,
promo for them.
all of it becomes on your end, and you can love it as much as you want to, but if you're not getting paid for it, it's like, it's thankless, and it's going to drain you faster than you want it to be able to create something.
I've had DJs talk to me about nights where they've had lines out the door for people to come and see them.
They made this.
They made $0.
They made, see that?
Yeah. They
Right.
made $0 because they're the ones that are paying for the photographer, they're paying for the videographer, they're paying for the flyer. The venues don't pay for that shit. So like when you go and you support DJs and shit, like you gotta realize like the whole. I mean, if they're a good DJ and they're doing it the right way, you know, and they're really about this shit, they're curating everything about it.
Right. But don't get me wrong though. I mean, there are venues that like, even in the times that we're in right now,
Right. Yeah.
they're having honest conversations, and they're saying like, hey, we've been not open for a very, very long time right now, and we need some help getting things back up to where they were. So
Right.
help us out now, and we'll promise, something better down the line, right? And if you have that relationship with that owner, with that management team, with that restaurant group, with that hospitality group, whatever, by all means, jump in and fight with those people, because, listen, they've been hung out to dry by everyone, right?
Definitely.
From a support perspective, right? Where, like, there's been grants for the arts, right? And some people have been lucky enough to scoop some of them up, but we've for the most part been left without a safety net. I mean, I was like selling jerseys. Like, I have such an insane jersey collection, right, and memorabilia, and like this year made me be like, well, I'm stuck in this one apartment. I ended up having to leave because this whole crazy altercation nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just part of, you understand who people are in tough moments, right? But I'm fully like here to say, like, I had to sell a bunch of the memorabilia to just offload some of the expenses, right? Like, that is what it is. And I don't miss any of that stuff, because that's what it is. It's just stuff, right? And the more important thing is, are you putting yourself in a place to actually be happier, healthier, not have coronavirus or any other disease, and just be more successful post putting this in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, you're killing it, man.
I mean,
You came in here firing.
listen, it's Sunday. I've had a week.
You had a week?
Yeah.
What was your week like?
I mean, it's been fine. It's just I think in terms of talking on a lot of these things, not a lot of people have the gusto to be able to speak on a lot of this stuff, because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they don't want to. They want to be everybody's friend.
So I want to talk to you about that, because you're a turntablist. I know. We got a couple more. You're a turntablist. You use turntables, right? I wanted to talk to you about what is your definition of a true DJ, because everyone's DJing. I know. I'm going to throw this at you just because it's always the roaring Twitter topic between everyone, especially among DJs, with like controller versus turntable versus CDJ versus this. Like, do you even scratch, bro? I can tell.
Yeah,
you don't want to hurt any feelings.
No,
but.
it's not a hurt feelings thing. It's just like the topic has definitely been like beaten to like a pulp at this point, right? And like I don't think that technical DJs or scratch DJs or vinyl DJs are. There's people that are intentionally mad because that they haven't align themselves in a way that moving forward they're still staying up to date with a lot of stuff, or they're upset that obviously we went through a pandemic, and even before the pandemic there was a very narrowing lane of sponsorship dollars, venues that would actually support and pay you for the rate and skill level that you have. And there's too many people that are faking the funk that are already in front of you in line.
Right.
And I'll probably will only be there for about a year or two, burn out on alcohol or drugs, and then be doing something completely different as it relates to the nightlife scene. And so that battle or that distinction is definitely always going to be present. And I'm a turntablist, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I would say I'm someone that has the functional skills that allow me to do different things in sets that people that don't have them just flat out won't be able to.
Yeah.
And it allows you kind of, I think of it like, the movie Back to the Future, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone else is driving with wheels, but the car I have has like the hovercraft joints and we can fly if we need to, right? So like it means that like there's a regular they've got the highway, they got to follow the directions, but people that have that skill set can be like, all right, I see 5 turns, 3 stoplights, and 6 overpasses ahead of what you're doing because I've spent the time 10 years of being in my room by myself and doing the same dumb repetitive motion over and over again, so it becomes something that's
you were shooting free throws and they were just trying to shoot threes all day.
Yeah, or just they weren't even in the gym, to be honest.
Oh, fair.
So
damn.
Listen, I don't. There's times when I feel down where like a set that I was supposed to have scheduling didn't work out, or I don't feel particularly happy about my creative output, or I feel like my regular life is conflicted with feeling that I'm putting something of value up as an artist or a DJ or
right.
like a leader in the space. I just the person with the controller isn't ruining my day. There you go. They're using it as a tool to do something. I don't know what it is sometimes, but they're doing something with the controller. And if they can rock a party and their group of friends like it, then that's amazing, right? I'm happy for them. But there is a very large distinction in between that person when normally that person has their controller on top of the turntables, they're fucking up all the equipment. When we take the controller off that and then they plug in the real people, there is a distinct difference traditionally in what that is, right? So that's not shade. It's just meaning that like all the things that I was listing from a detail perspective and orientation of looking like, all right, that group over there has 5 to 6 people between the ages of 20 to 35. All right, looks like they're celebrating a birthday. That means that they're probably gonna like this record. It's 10:30. I've got this much time to get in those records between I get to 11:45. Then I can play these records because they're hot right now. Then, all right, we're into a point where everyone's intoxicated, and then we can go in between 2 sing-along records, cut out the record, so they can sing the acapella themselves, drop another record in below it. Like there's other things and other moves that people aren't, like if you're looking at someone, everyone's having a good time, but there's other things that people are thinking about that have learned from actual originators of what's going on. And that's just open format DJing, right? Like if you're in a house set, those little like curves and back ends and staircases and stuff are different for them because the way that they operate functionally is different. But all those things, for some people, I think that they operate them on feeling and intention, and they're almost like a lightning rod for the energy of people. But that also means that when the people aren't giving them that energy, that means they don't have the ability to provide it, right? So when you have the technical ability and understand, all right, I've been dropped in a hole. The person before me played 10 of the hottest records, totally burned me. How can I reset the room sonically so people are ready to hear new hot shit again, right?
Yeah.
So there's been, if you've been around enough, there's things that'll definitely put you in a space. But I would say from the scratching versus non-scratching thing, like some people, listen, when people are partying, they don't want to hear wikis all the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you can spice and season something with it, so people don't understand that there's someone that's like really doing it, and that brings it back to not even being intentional. Is back to the stuff with the fire, right? I cut at the stadium with the fire because they need to know that in this stadium there is someone DJing.
Right.
There's not someone hitting iTunes. Like, there's streets named after DJs in Chicago. We do not have a Spotify playlist running right now. We have someone that took years of experience and actually put in the time. And the Fire as a brand, and other brands too, right? The Bulls, White Sox, Cubs, like, you can go down the line, Blackhawks, right? I know people in all those organizations. There's people that value bringing that from an entertaining perspective, right?
Yes.
So those things I think are important.
Very nice. Dude, you're killing it. I got one last question for you.
Man.
I didn't want to end on this one but we're running low on time. We want to keep this. I saw you recently speak out, and we're not going to talk about the situation directly. But I saw you speak out about people who want to know about it can obviously just search on Twitter and see it all. But one thing that I continuously see in like Chicago is these people who hold these positions of like power and kind of have these positions where they can help people get to the next step in their career.
Sure.
And we continuously see these people either abuse that power in whatever way, or like they just like end up fucking a bunch of people over, like, et cetera, et cetera. How, because you've been here for 10 years, right. You've come through the ranks, you've probably seen it all at this point. You've probably heard a bunch of stories.
Yeah.
How do we break through this, and how do we get to a point where like there is more of a community that can help uplift each other and get people to the next level where they can like either start providing for themselves or like just grow in general? Yeah,
I mean,
without going to these like select people that we obviously know like have these issues.
It's tough, right? Because Chicago as a community, I think we always have this like coastal envy of Los Angeles or New York City, right?
Right.
And brands, or not even, I hate using the B word, right? Brands, but people with money or people that have the investment in time normally go to those places as the originators of things. But if we're being completely frank and honest, right, the originators of a lot of types of music and style are here. And they came from here, and the music originated and created here. But the other level and ripple of that is that the people that created those things don't look like me. They don't look like anybody.
No, in this room, yeah.
Right. They're black people for the most part, right? And those folks created that and will always be the originators of that culture, right? So if it wasn't already prevalent from the previous year, is even more so now, is that the space that you run in, it can't look like you, and it shouldn't look like you, and it needs to be diverse. You know, in a DIY art scene space, like, ultimately the color that people really care about is green, not white, yellow, black, brown, whatever. But I would say that you need to hold yourself accountable for the crew and people that you roll with and the people that you respect, but also don't invest time and energy and space into giving these people the creative power to be gatekeepers. If you're passed up for something, if you don't feel like you're getting, picked or anointed as the person, like, you need to create the space that you wish to see in the city or wherever you end up. If it's not Chicago, then whatever, fine, do it somewhere else. That's no one's tying you down here. But too often, and I need to stop myself from doing this sometimes too, is that like for years ago, and like New York Times bestsellers, like Oprah has a book list, right, where she would just pick a book, and then that book would go like a gajillion times.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and all you need to do is write something that Oprah likes, and then you're good, right? Like,
And then everyone else likes it.
right. So like take that, package it up, whatever, bring it to Chicago and say, I just need to make something that these folks like, and then when they hand pick me to be a part of that crew, done, set, locked up. But that's not the way to do it anymore. You have all the tools and the ability to create for yourself. So if a brand doesn't do what you want, they don't give you the dollar amount that you want, they pass over you. You know, I'm notorious for a lot of times I would be hired to do events and I wouldn't be asked back again because I'm not here for a shoe package or a shirt package. You need to pay me money. And so I would do an event and then they'd pay me money, and that's the last time I'm ever invited back again. Because too many people are way too happy with getting paid, you know, shoes or shirts or bottles of liquor for something that you've worked on for a number of years, right? And that you've done. And if that's what makes you feel good and you're happy about it, that exchange of goods or services, then great, right?
Right. They want to say I worked with X brand.
But you need to down the line take something and reinvest in yourself. ComEd and Comcast does not take sneakers as a form of payment. So
nope.
Your student loans don't take jerseys as a form of payment. So you need to figure out and understand what those things are, and you just need to create it for yourself. But overall, just like the overarching thing is, if it's not going to be you to create it, like my good friend, I've worked on a bunch of events, Ernest would tell me, he's like, if it's not going to be us to do it, who's going to do it then? And you have to take that approach that the work's not going to be easy when you first start out, and the first events or things you throw, no one's going to be there.
Starting is always the hardest.
You're not, and you may not get the clicks or hits or admiration that you want, but like even on Apple iTunes, like if you go on, like 25% of the podcasts that are on like Apple they only have one episode. They tried it once, they got 13 listeners, and then it was done, right?
Right.
So ultimately, you just need to figure out and be consistent, and then just be true to yourself, right? And just stop giving people that don't deserve it the owner or co-sign on your work, basically. All right, thank you.
Dude, no, that was...
I'm going to get off the soapbox. Even
no, dude, I love the soapbox because what you're saying a lot of things that a lot of people agree with. Like, when I have conversations with people, like, person to person...
Well, they'll say it to you, but they won't say it aloud.
They won't say it out loud. They won't say it on social media. They won't say it to the people that are fucking them over. They won't say it to whoever, you know. But a lot of people will agree with you on what you're saying. And, like, I think that I mean, granted, I've never been anywhere else. So, like, but I do see it a lot in Chicago with, like, people just, like, continuously get fucked over by brands. They continuously get fucked over by people who are, like, in power. And nobody says anything, and everyone just kind of, like, takes it. And then everyone's, like, afraid.
And just do your research.
Yeah.
Just literally do your research.
Or just ask. But the thing is, nobody wants to talk about it to a certain extent because they're like, oh, I don't want to be like that person. Yeah,
everyone's accessible at this point.
Right.
Like, I don't even have to go up to a conversation with somebody from an artistic level perspective, and I can go back and find 3 mixes, 2 podcasts they were on, and I will know probably 80 to 90% about
whoever
at least what that person wants me to know about them, right? Before I even.
Yeah, but subliminally, they give you enough information where you can form an opinion. That I've realized.
Yeah.
Wait, if you really listen, you're like, okay, like I can see.
Right.
Like I can see through this bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, just like listen to when people have claims about people, or people have just uneasy feelings, listen to those people.
Yeah.
Because generally, they're going to be right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stat, this has been a great episode. Man, number 2 in the books. Holy shit,
Cue
dude.
the Celine Dion music.
We're going to cue. No, man. This
Auto-tone that. Come back and auto-tone that.
Yeah, auto-tone it.
Post-rotation.
It's like, no, I'm not a singer. I'm just a podcast host. No, dude, this has been great. Thank
It's a
you,
pleasure.
dude. It was so good. Thank you for bringing the Topo Chico,
Here
the hard seltzer.
to help.
Where you at, Topo? Come on, we're here. We got you on camera. We're drinking it.
We're in the streets.
Nico, get the email running, man. Hashtag ad. No, dude, this has been so much fun, man.
I appreciate
You came through. You gave so much information, and honestly, dude, I hope that a lot of people who are thinking about DJing and are starting out right now.
I may never DJ again after this. I might be canceled after sharing all these gems.
No. I think if people don't celebrate you, I'm gonna start the
Thanks.
I'm gonna start the free DJ step hashtag, and we're gonna get T-shirts made.
Thank you.
No, dude. Honestly, though, like in the information that you just shared, like I just even from like a visual artist, it spreads across all platforms.
Right.
So,
All mediums,
dude,
for sure.
Dude, thank you for sharing all this because I think it's gonna help out a bunch of people in the future. Like, and that's why we do this shit.
My man.
Yeah. This has been the Late Night Dive. We had DJ Step here.
Yes, sir.
Shout out Mixed by Geo. Shout out Nick McCormick. Shout out Nico Rue, the team. We out.
Late night